So I know I wrote this on the board behind me, but just so that it shows up on the video as well for anyone who's absent and watching this. The free response questions are going to be the ones that match up with 7, 8, 9, and 13. And then the calculator allowed ones are just the last two, 12 and 13. So we'll need a calculator for those, all right, just so that that ended up on the video. So here we're just finding the derivative, find dy dx. That sounds simple enough, but these get pretty complicated. This is a chain rule. Outside function is ln. So what's your derivative for ln? Yeah, it's 1 over x, but it's going to be 1 over like that stuff. So I'm going to put the 5x minus y in the denominator. Now you can put a dot and chain it on, or you can just go ahead and put it in the numerator. I'm going to go ahead and just put the stuff in the numerator. If you didn't, that's fine. It's a personal preference thing. It doesn't make a difference. So now we're doing the derivative of what's in the parentheses. So derivative of 5x. That would just be 5 minus derivative of y is dy dx. Good. And again, if yours was off to the side, it means the exact same thing. You don't need to change it to match mine, all right? Equals, and then what's your derivative on the right-hand side? It is just 2. Derivative of 2x is 2, 7 is a constant. Now, you have to go the whole way with these because this is going to be like a multiple choice question, and this is not going to be an answer. How would you start to unbury the dy dx to get it by itself? 5x. Okay, so that's going to get multiplied to the other side. I'm going to need to distribute the 2. So that would be 10x minus 2y. All right, then what? Yep, subtract the 5, which I'm going to do just like that. Yeah, you have to divide by a negative, which is just going to negate all of this. So negative 10x plus 2y plus 5. Now, when you go to choose your answer for multiple choice, they might have that written in a different order. It would mean the same thing. All right. And then I'll just do number 2, and then I'll pause again and give you a little bit more time. Or did that one go okay? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like we, okay. All right. Derivative of 3x is just 3. So for the left side, you just get 3. What rule do you need for this side? How does quotient rule start? Okay. So it's the denominator. This is interesting though. Derivative of 5 is 0. So that's going to actually go away. Minus the numerator. Derivative of the denominator, dy dx, over the denominator squared. Okay. Again, that's not going to be an answer choice. You have to, get the whole way through so you can find an answer. This part's going to be 0 though. So I'm actually just going to scribble that out. What would you do to start unburying the dy dx? This is what we want by itself. Okay, so multiply by the bottom, the y minus 4 squared. You can't distribute the 3 in that case. Why not? Yeah, because of the squared. All right, equals negative 5 dy dx. And then you would just divide by the negative 5. So I'm going to, or do you want me to do 3 as well and then pause? Okay, because you guys got pretty far. All right, now this says to find the derivative at a specific point. All right, so let's go and get our derivative. Derivative of 2e to the x is 2e to the x, right? Plus dy dx equals, now what rule is this? Good. X is the first thing, y squared is the second thing, okay? So for your product rule, it's first to just x, derivative of y squared, 2y dy dx, so that's first derivative of the second, plus the second, and then derivative of x is just 1. We're at the point, if you don't want to write that, you don't have to. And then I got this question, but I'm going to say it again so everyone hears it and it ends up on the recording. E to the 4th is what? That's a constant, so that's gone. E is a number, 2.718. 4 is a number, that part's just going to be gone. Now, don't do any algebra if all you need to do is plug in a point. Numbers are easier to work with than variables, all right? Everywhere there's an X, we're gonna put a 3, and everywhere there's a Y, we're gonna put a 4. We're just gonna plug that in. So that would be 2e to the third plus dy dx, that's what we're trying to find, equals, all right, x would be 3 times 2 would be 6, and then times y is 4, so 3 times 2 is 6 times 4 is 24 dy dx plus, and then what would that last part be? Good, 4 squared gives you 16. And now you're just trying to get dy dx by itself, so we got to get those on the same side. If we subtract over a dy dx, 24 dy dx minus 1 dy dx be 23 dy dx. And then what would you need to do with the 16? You'd subtract that over. So you'd have 2e to the third, whatever that is, minus 16. And then what would your last step be to get the dy dx? Yeah, divide by 23. So it's 2e to the third minus 16 over 23. Now it's going to be multiple choice. That would just be your answer. But I want to bring this up just in case if it was a free response question. That's technically not dy dx. It's dy dx at the point 3, 4. And those are two different things. It's the difference between a derivative like f prime of x and f prime of a number. Remember linkage errors? Okay, so anyway, for what it's worth, you won't be able to mess that up on this test because again, it's multiple choice, but I'm just bringing it up. It's a derivative at a specific point, technically. Okay. So derivative of 4e to the y is 4e to the y dy dx. Good. Minus, all right, e to the y cubed. That's e to the y cubed. And then you have to chain on the derivative of y cubed, which would be 3y squared dy dx. Again, if it looks like a mess, you probably did it right. Equals, and then derivative of 2x, just be 2 plus derivative of x to the 5th is 5x to the 4th. Now, don't do any algebra if all you have to do is plug in numbers. These are easy numbers to plug in. We're going to plug in 1 for x and 1 for y. Stick with me here. And some of you tuned me out because you were like, oh, I already did this problem. You have to check that your answer's right. Here you would just have 4e. So we're plugging in 1 for y. So it would be 4e dy dx minus, let's see, this would be 1 squared there times 3 would just be 3. So 3e dy dx equals, and then if you plug in 1 for x, you would have 7. Well, 5 plus 2 and then 7. So putting these together, 4e dy dx minus 3e dy dx would be, 1e dy dx. And then to get dy dx by itself, you would divide by e. And again, technicality, it's not the derivative, it's the derivative at the point 1, 1. But again, it's multiple choice on the test, that one, so you won't be able to mess that up. But did you get 7 over e? A lot of you just stared at me and flipped your paper over, so nice job. Good job, guys. All right. Now this one says to write an equation. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, because it's multiple choice, every single choice uses this point. The only difference between any of them is the slope. So really all you have to find is the slope. Coming with me there? That's really all you need. All right. So derivative of x to the 4th would be 4x to the 3rd. All right. And then what rule do you need for this one? Product. So negative 2x is the first thing. Y is the second thing. All right. So it's going to be the first derivative of the second plus the second, and then derivative of the first. Derivative of negative 2x is negative 2. Equals not 9, 0. Good. Don't do any algebra if all you have to do is plug in a number. You're going to plug in 1 for x, negative 4 for y. So that would just give us 4 minus 2 dy dx, again, x is 1, y is -4, so that would be +8 equals 0. 4 + 8 is 12. I ran out of space, but dy dx at this point, 1 comma -4, you would subtract over the 12, that'd be -12 divided by -2. I got +6. Is that, did I mess up my negatives? No, it should be +6. Again, once you get there, you'll be able to pick the answer. But just to be thorough, this is your point and then this is your slope. So it would be y + 4 = 6, parenthesis, x - 1 as the final answer. But I'm telling you on the test, all the choices look the exact same except for the slope. So you're just picking the one with the correct slope. Yeah. Did you get 6 as your slope? Yours was -6, but that's easy to fix. All right, now we're getting into our related rates. Every variable is with respect to time. They all get a dt. So is that supposed to be a theta? I don't know why that printed weird, but theta increases 8 radians per minute. So how do I label that? All right, d theta dt. And is it positive or negative? Positive, increasing. If it's not free response, you don't need to worry about units because you're just picking an answer. All right, at what rate is x increasing? So what's our question mark? dx dt, and it should be positive. That helps you with multiple choice because if some of the choices are positive and some are negative, you can like narrow it down right off the bat. All right, when x is 12 units. So we need a relationship between the variables. It's going to have to be trig because you have an angle. So sine, cosine, or tangent. So sine of theta equals x over 13. You can also write that as 1/13 x if you prefer that. And then you do a derivative. So derivative of sine. Just cosine. And it's cosine of theta. Well, d theta dt, okay, equals. Now, again, if you want to think of this as 1/13 x, the derivative is 1/13 dx dt. There we go. All right, cosine of theta, we're going to have to come back to. Just leave that blank for a second. Do I have d theta dt? Yes, that's 8. And then over here, we've got 1/13 times, oh, dx dt is what we're looking for, so just leave that in there. What's the most common triple in the triangles? Oh, well, that's what this one is. What's the most common one for 5? So I made this one 5, 12, 13. What do you think is on here? Anyway, if x is 12, this side's going to be 5. It's 5, 12, 13. If you were with me last year, do you remember what I called those ones? Locker combinations is what I called those. If you weren't with me, 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13. I'll be really impressed if anyone remembers any other ones. There's one with a 17. It's 8, 15, 17. And then the other one that I know is 7, 24, 25. Anyway, they're helpful if you know them. The point is we're doing cosine. Cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse. So that would be 5/13. Again, if you know 3, 4, 5, though, usually you're good. These 13s are going to cancel. And 8 times 5 is 40. So you've got 40 equals dy dx, which is what we're looking for. So that's the answer. Or I'm sorry, not dy dx. Geez, oh, horrible. I'm sorry. Blasphemy and sacrilege. It's actually, I wrote dx dx. That's really bad. Dx dt. I'm sorry. Jeez, there we go. All right. Crisis averted. All right. This one's a part A, B, C. This is going to be a free response one. So using this equation, find dy dx. Okay, we can do that. Derivative of y is dy dx minus, all right, derivative of cosine negative sine. Okay, so it would be minus negative sine, so plus sine of y dy dx. I know that's so hard to go back and forth as I just showed you up there. Equals, now you catch a break with the other side though, that would just be 3. Now when there are 2 dy dx, this is actually the first one we came across like this. You have to factor it out, GCF. So when you factor out dy dx, what's left? Good, perfect. You guys even got the 1. 1 plus sine of y. And then I should have written a little bit smaller. Here, I'll make it fit. Then dy dx equals 3 divided by, like, yeah, all that stuff. That's it. I don't have it in front of me, but I would wager a guess it's a point for doing the derivative and then a point for the answer. We should get 2 out of 2. Usually if there's a product rule or a quotient rule, it'll be 2 points for the, again, usually, sometimes it's different, but all right. Write an equation. Now, normally I would say that's a point and a slope, but it's equation of vertical. So let's review Hoy-Vux. Vertical should be X or Y. So your answer for vertical line should be X equals something, okay? What is the slope of a vertical line? Think about your Vux, what the V and the U stand for. Undefined. The way you get undefined is with a 0 denominator. So look back at your derivative. We're going to set the denominator equal to 0. Let me recap that. Vertical means an undefined slope. That means you're dividing by 0. If you were with me last year, do you remember the troublemakers? The ones that make the denominators? You were looking for the troublemakers, whoever makes the denominator 0. Now, what would you do to start trying to solve that? We'd subtract 1, good. And now we need to think about our unit circle. Here, I'll draw you one. Where is sine -1? I'm looking for a word like up, down, left, right. Sine is the y value. Down, it's right here. What is that on the unit circle? Y would have to be 3 pi over 2. Now, unfortunately, that's not the answer. I feel like if you got there, you'd get a point though. But your answer needs to be X equals something. So what you're going to have to do is take this Y and plug it back into not the derivative, but the original, the regular thing, okay? So Y is 3 pi over 2. So it'll be 3 pi over 2. This is kind of like a second problem here. Minus, let me zoom out so we can see the original problem. So Y is 3 pi over 2 minus cosine of 3 pi over 2. So what would be cosine? That'd just be 0. I'm going to write it just so you can see it, but that would be 0 equals 3x plus 2. And what you have to do is solve for x. Your answer needs to be x equals whatever. And it can be a mess because it's free response. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. All right, but you need to get x by itself. Now 0 is gone. What would you start doing to get x by itself? Yeah, minus 2, so you'd have 3 pi over 2 minus 2. And then honestly, just divide that whole thing by 3. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. You just need the x by itself. So I will recap that. Vertical means undefined slope. That means we set the denominator equal to 0. Good so far? We solved that, and then you have to take that and plug it back into the original problem. I would hazard a guess that I would call that the hardest one on there, right? And then C, what does that mean with the 2's in there? All right, second derivative. So you're going to look back at your part A. This is your first derivative, and we're going to do a second derivative. So what rule does that require? Quotient. How does quotient start? All right, denominator, 1 plus sine 1 times 0. Good. Derivative of 3 would just be 0. Minus 3. And then the derivative of the denominator. The 1's going to go away. Derivative of sine of y. Cosine of y. Okay, now you can't write dy dx. You have to put that, what dy dx equals. So it's 3. It doesn't matter if it's messy. It doesn't matter, but it just, instead of dy dx, you put that stuff. It's what dy dx equals. And then that whole thing is over the denominator squared. Please don't do anything to that. That is what my answer key will say on it. And if you try to mess with it or go further, I will have to stop what I'm doing and figure it out and then see if your answer is right. So please just leave it like that. Okay. Can you do that for me? Please. Great. I can probably get a couple more done before lunch because I'd rather not break the video until I have to. All right. Volume of a sphere spherical balloon, because all balloons are perfect spheres, as we know, is expanding. Table gives values for the rate of change of the radius of the balloons. That's r prime of t with respect to time. Radius is 10 centimeters. Let's write that down. Is this one that's a free? Oh, this is a free response. So we do need to worry about units. If it's multiple choice, you really don't need to worry about the units because that'll just happen. Right? When time is 3 seconds. So I want you to look at the table. Bless you. We're looking right here. When time is 3 seconds, what is dr dt? Is 3.5 centimeters per second. So you have to look that up in the table. They tell you dr dt, but it's in a table format, but it's not hard. They said time 3 seconds, just find 3 on the table for heaven's sake, okay? Find, so here's our question mark, rate of change of the volume. So what's our question mark value? dv dt is the question mark. It should be positive. At time 3 seconds, and they already said that. Indicate units. Now this is how it's going to be on the test. This is embedded in the question. So now we're going to do our derivative. dv dt equals, and then what's your derivative of this side? 4 pi r squared. Good. And it would be a point for that derivative. And I shouldn't say this on the recording, but I'm going to anyway. That's the answer on the test to the derivative. Because I can't change this formula. It's a formula. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a definition. That's the derivative of it. So on your test, that's the answer. I can't make it be different. It's not like I can change the numbers. It's a formula. All right, now we're plugging in. dv dt is what we're looking for. 4 pi, what was r? Do we have r? Yeah, so 10 squared. dr dt is 3.5. We weren't even missing anything. How cool is that? You know, sometimes you have to stop and go back and find something. Now, it does say units of measure, and it's a little tricky because it's for a volume. So anyone want to give a stab at it? Centimeters cubed per second. Cool. That's it. Don't want too bad, right? All right, a cone is shrinking. The table gives values for the rate of change of the radius of the cone. So it's the same kind of thing we just did. The height of the cone is decreasing at 3 inches per minute. So how will I label that? Height is decreasing. Good, it's dHdt, and good, it's -3 inches per minute. This is another one that's free response, right? Yeah, so we have to worry about the units. All right, at time 2, so look at the table. At time 2, what are we told? Good, dr dt is -7 inches per minute. So you just have to find it on the table, but it's not hard. Just look at the table. All right, the radius is 20 inches and the height is 15 inches. They give you everything. You're not even missing anything. You have both the rates and you have the radius and the height. You have it all. All right. Find the rate of change of the volume. So dv dt at time 2. These are both negative. They're both shrinking. So your volume rate should be also negative. So yeah, shrinking. We're expecting a negative amount. All right. This is going to be a product rule. Why? Why is it product? You have h and you have r. You have 2 different variables. So the first thing is 1/3 pi r squared. The second thing is h. You have 2 different variables, right? So dv dt equals product rule. How does it start? All right, the first thing, so 1/3 pi r squared times dh dt plus, I have to do it the other way mentally. You're not wrong, but I have to put this the second thing like h, and then yes, it'll be 2/3 pi r to the first, if you want to put a 1 in there, and then good, dr dt. Once again, this is a formula. It's a definition. I can't change it. That's what it'll be on the test. So this, that's the derivative on the test. That's the answer. I can't hide it from you. I can't change it. I can't make it different. That'll be the answer. All right, and then we plug everything in. dv dt equals 1/3 pi times 20 squared times what? What goes next? Yep, negative 3. You're kind of just matching it up at this point. Plus 15 times 2/3 pi times 20 times -7. And for the love of my sanity, please don't touch that. I'm not going to work it out. I have no intention whatsoever of working that out. We do need units though, and again, it's a rate for a volume. Inches cubed per minute. I'll finish one more and we'll stop at the end of this page. We'll break there for lunch. All right, a particle is moving on a hyperbola. We used to teach hyperbolas in Algebra 2, and many years ago they took it out. But oh, you know what it looks like? So a hyperbola, it kind of looks like two parabolas. It's like that. If you're like, hey, that's not a function. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't pass the vertical line test. Well, it can also go this way. That's a hyperbola. Cool. All right, good deal. That's real quick what that is. I wish we still taught it, but we don't. Anyway, this is the formula for it. Xy equals 12. Y equals 3. Real quick, because we will need it. If y is 3, what's x? Good, okay. We can multiply. I'm going to write it down because we're going to need it. dy dt is 7. How is x changing? So dx dt is your question mark. So it should be positive. Everything else here is positive. There's no way we'd get a negative result. What rule do you need for the derivative? Yeah, product rules. So it will be x times what? dy dt plus. Good. I have to do it the other way though. Y times, like the second times derivative of the first. I don't know. That's just how my brain does it. It doesn't matter. This is very forgiving with putting it the other way around. Equals not 12, 0. This is a multiple choice one though. I would be willing to bet that one of the wrong answers has a 12 there. Like the correct answer if there was a 12. So just be really careful. All right, we're gonna plug it all in. X is 4. dy dt is 7. Oh, actually, you know what? It is gonna be negative. Because we're gonna have to subtract this over. This is gonna end up being negative.
So we wouldn't know that.
I feel like, yeah, you wouldn't know that until the very end though. Again, it'll be multiple choice. But yeah, we're gonna have to subtract this over. But that makes sense. I guess if y is getting bigger, x would have to be getting smaller. Anyway, don't think too hard about it. It will end up being negative though. All right, and then y is 3. And then dx dt is what we're looking for. So this would be 28. You would subtract that to the other side. So what would your answer be? Yeah, -28/3. Which is a great answer. I don't think there were any units for that. Again, it'll be multiple choice, so can't mess up the units.